Mr. Goodman? Did all the candidates, are there questions for the candidates? What we planned on doing is all come up here if anyone had any more questions for anyone.
Don't be shy, I know you have questions. No, got it all dialed? Or if you have any questions for me about your over 10-year Central Committee rep, Eric McGill, I'd be glad to fill out. Mr. Radigan also.
Add on to that a little bit. I've been precinct commander since I moved to Horseshoe Bend. I work for Free County Chairman. That lady is by far the only one that's did her job. That's just the truth of the matter.
I will tell you, being as I came here in June of 2018, and being very involved in the Republican Central Committee back home, I thought that I would find out what Boise County Republican Central Committee was all about. And I looked online and I saw that Eric McGliff, I've never met the man, I wouldn't even know what he looks like. So, but it said no regular meetings are being held. So he didn't hold meetings. Good luck for him to return your phone call. And I thought, what kind of a Republican party do they have in Boise County? Oh well, and like I said, I told you earlier, I had a lot to figure out, you know, how to manage all the property. And so I just thought, I don't want to get involved.
Put that on your slope.
And
I
here,
will answer your calls.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I will. But anyway, here I am.
That's what I thought. If this person's like the dictator for the Republican Party, if he decides who can run, who can't run, whose name gets put on the ballot, who doesn't, who gets support, who doesn't, that's not representative government at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically one guy that set him up with a power base for himself, and whoever he thinks he can pick and control.
Right.
America first.
Yeah.
One bad thing about that is he has the ear of the state GOP, because those of us that stand for true conservative Republicans in this county are not liked by the state GOP. Got to tell you a little story. Pocatello summer meeting last year with the state GOP. This little lady over here and my wife sitting over here, they don't like them at all. Now, one of the meetings, Tom, who's the chairman, was talking about how we have to keep Idaho red. My wife raised her hand, got acknowledged because she was a delegate to the state meeting. I was there to present a resolution, but anyway, she got acknowledged and said, well, Mr. Chairman, how can we keep Idaho red when it isn't? We have a lot of rhinos in this state. We came here from Alaska when we moved here in 2009 because we had met a lot of people in Alaska that had been in Idaho and said, oh, Idaho is just as conservative, just as red as Alaska. Yeah, it isn't. I got news for you. If you believe that, you might as well move to California.
How can that be when you got Murkowski up there?
Well, an exception, yes, I know.
There's a
But
lot of rhinos in the
at the local level and everything up there, very strong conservatives. Anyway, the establishment politicians at that meeting almost ate her alive. It was unbelievable. Gene stood with her.
defending her, though. I
Yes.
was ready.
Gene stood with her. It was to the point that Tom Luna said, you know, sit down or I'll close this meeting. Well, he didn't close it, but they took a break. But it was just ridiculous. And at that meeting also, Mary and Gene and I were handing out copies of the Idaho Freedom Foundation Index. If you don't know that, you need to. The Idaho Freedom Foundation puts out, it used to be just voting on conservative issues. Now they do financial and education as well as just general voting. There are people that are elected as Republicans. They call themselves Republicans. They say they're conservatives. And they have business worse than some of the Democrats as far as being conservative. We have a gentleman who's President Pro Tem of the Idaho Senate. You'd think very conservative. And I've known Chuck for years. He was a golfer. He's a Navy officer. So met him. I know what church he goes to. I know people, friends, go to church with him. He's a nice guy. His voting record this last legislative session was 20% conservative. He leads the Senate. I've got bills passed in the House. One of them was Idaho laws for Idaho courts. It passed in the House in 2018 very easily. It went to the Senate. our Attorney General told the Senate, don't even consider it, because if you do pass it, we'll open ourselves up to a lawsuit. Well, that same bill is passed in 20 other states. Yes, there have been some lawsuits, but the states have won every one of them. Our Attorney General needs to go as well.
I just wanted to mention one of the more poignant parts of our meeting in Pocatello with Miss Mary and myself was when Tom Luna was up there, and Mary mentioned to him, what can we do? How can we possibly keep Idaho red when even the chair of the Republican GOP, Mr. Tom Luna, who used to be the head of the Department of Education, voted Common Core into Idaho in 2012. And our schools and children have paid the price.
In addition to that, not only did he bring it in, when I moved here in 2009 and I got involved in what was going on, I was on a committee down the valley to stop the implementation of Common Core. Doing research and everything, Tom Luna was one of the architects of Common Core. He didn't just bring it in here. It's his program, partly his program. There are others involved, but he's not conservative. And that's the problem we've got with the state GOP. There are just so many people. There are a lot of good people. You know, we mentioned Dorothy Moon, Priscilla Giddings, Heather Scott, Ron Nate, about 20 people that signed on to that conservative agenda. Those are the people we need to make sure we get elected and keep them, and add other people that are following that agenda.
So that's
John
the
Kruger.
Department of Education is very liberal.
Yes,
The
right.
Department of Education is very liberal.
Yes.
And Brandon Durst is running for superintendent of education here in Idaho, and we need to see him get in as well. Brandon Durst. Yeah.
But again, with Mary mentioning Common Core and labeling Mr. Luna for what he did, he wanted to shut the whole meeting down. It was over. It was over.
You know, I see a lot of people going, oh, we're running on a Republican label, we're conservative. I recommend you ask people, what makes you a conservative? Ask them, what makes you a conservative? A conservative believes, number one, that people are basically flawed. We're flawed, our founding fathers understood that, and so therefore they developed probably the best political document in the history of the world, and that is the Constitution. Based on their understanding that human nature is basically flawed, they had 3 branches of government so that power couldn't accumulate into the hands of one person or into an oligarchy. It's a brilliant document.
But it did this year.
Pardon me?
It did in 2020.
Yeah, well, we need to hang on to that. And we need to reestablish what true conservatism really is.
We don't need a convention of states. What we need to do is what Deborah just said. Follow the Constitution. They're not doing that.
And it's just like you see, just like in law enforcement in a lot of these places, they're not enforcing the law. And so what we're seeing is anarchy, basically. People understand, we don't have it here yet, that the smash and grabs are going into grocery stores and grabbing as much stuff as you can. It's happening in California all the time.
I heard they tried it in Boise, but then a lot of the Republicans and that were in there saving the stores at the time that they were doing it.
Oh, that was good. I didn't hear about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have guns, so. Go ahead.
I wanted to share with you real quick the Idaho Conservative Agenda for 2022 that was seriously promoted by Dorothy Moon, who needs to be our Secretary of State. She has represented this District 8 brilliantly. She truly has. If you look at her voting record, she'll respond to you on a moment's notice. She's very good with her constituents. Priscilla Giddings, Janice McGeehan. This is the Idaho Conservative Agenda, and I don't care who the candidate is that's running. We need to hold their feet to the fire on this. So just basically, the agenda is restore freedom in our state, ensure election integrity, medical freedom and privacy, education freedom, family, parents, religious rights, keep businesses open, defend our Second Amendment. Secondly, lower our taxes. We have over a $1.5 billion state surplus that Brad Little's playing with. Property tax relief and repeal, grocery tax repeal. There's no reason for us to have a grocery tax. Gasoline tax cut, suspension, income tax reduction, less government. Restrict reliance on the federal government. Restore the proper separation of powers. Less discretionary spending by the executive branch. No new government programs. We're like a bloated cow. Control state budgets.
I'm going to add something to that. There's two people running that I'm endorsing, and I think everybody out there would. At the state level, out of our district, we're District 8. I know there was some redistricting, but we're still in District 8. We lost Jim and Lynn. What was the other? Lehigh County that we lost? Yeah, we lost an area, but we picked up Elmore County. So we're a pretty good sized county, or district. But Dorothy Moon has stepped down as representative. There's a young man by the name of Rob Beiswinger, who you need to get to know, and that's who you need to elect. And Senator John Kruger, another young man. They are dyed-in-the-wool conservative Christians, and they are fighting hard to get elected. I know they would appreciate your vote.
And Rob Beiswinger lives in Horseshoe Bend, and John Kruger in Mountain Home. I'd adopt him as my son if I could.
Just a little bit of a question on that redistricting. This happened in California too, and it happened in the 70s. And what happened was all the rural areas got split up and got attached. Like Alameda County went to San Joaquin County and became the same district. San Joaquin County lost its rural conservative vote that way. I'm not that familiar with the Mountain Home area, but it looks like it's a far denser population than we have.
But
do you think we're going to have that same problem with our rural vote just happening to be sort of cut out?
I don't think so at this time. I think in some areas it's going to happen, like Jim County. They're now, District 14 is all Jim County and the city of Eagle. But as far as Elmore County, John Kruger's run for Senate was asked to run by Christy Zitto, and if you know Christy, you know she wouldn't be endorsing someone that is not a true conservative. And at the meeting of the Republican Party in Elmore County just this week, they endorsed both Rob Beiswinger and John Kruger. So those are people we need to, and we probably here in Boise County be endorsing people, except like was mentioned earlier, our Central Committee can't endorse anyone unless it's a unanimous vote. And Jean told you what happened to her. I stood with Jean. So nothing's going to be unanimous on that candidate.
I wanted to mention just real quick before we go to you, that it's up to all of us to really go after the Idaho GOP, because the rhinos are everywhere. And most of them are people that have crossed over. They're trying to take us down, literally. So a load of rhinos in our GOP, and they are doing things. They will not sign on to the Republican platform, conservative agenda, and the people aren't making them do so to run.
Yeah, something interesting you ought to do is go on Google or whatever search engine you use and look at the Idaho GOP platform. It's beautiful. We have people that aren't following it, and they say they're Republicans and conservatives. There was a question back there, young lady?
Yeah, I just wanted to know what was the difference between Division 2 and Division 3. Is that different cities?
Okay. I talked to you. Go ahead.
Basically, they're just two different geographic locations. District 2 goes all the way up to Loman, wraps around, Garden Valley also, and then wraps around the back and goes down the corridor to Idaho City.
District 3 is Horseshoe Bend, Pottsville, Centerville, and with the redistricting this year, District 3 also gained Wilderness Ranch.
Isn't that
Matter of
right?
fact, all of us are going to be at a meet and greet in Wilderness Ranch on the 10th.
Right.
And you can vote for both.
Yeah, you vote for both. It's open voting. You don't have to just vote for candidates in your district.
Let's discuss this, and I would encourage you to call the clerk's office and inquire about this. The sample ballot online shows, this is just something I'm going to speak about for a precinct committee person. These people had to file with the clerk's office to get their name on the ballot for precinct committee person, woman, man, whatever. And their names are not on there. It's blank and it says write in. They're not write-in candidates.
That's what Mary Prisco has done.
They're not write-in candidates. And so, also another thing, you have to remember that you have to spell names correctly. So for precinct 70, I'm just giving you an example. I know you're not in precinct 70, but for precinct 70, they've got a couple of people running. And if you have a name, you're fortunate enough to have Molotov.
Are you going to spell
Mollenkeoef, or Jones, Jones. What are you going to remember, and how are you going to write it in? So it's important, and I don't know your precinct. What's their precinct? 40?
No, I'm 40.
You're 40. What's your precinct number? Do you know?
Yeah, me on that.
Okay, so you vote where?
Or
Right here. I can't remember your
Garden Valley is
your
30.
Oh, it's 30. Yeah, I was right. Okay, 30. So you're going to want to know who's running in precinct 30 for your committee person. That's your representative on the central committee, the Boise.
That's Eric McGill or
Bill Baker.
William Baker.
Oh, okay.
On the ballot, it will be a write-in only.
Well,
That's the way it is right now, as on the sample ballot.
I have asked for clarification on that from the county clerk. She has not gotten back to me. I'm going to the commissioners meeting this coming Thursday or Tuesday, like I do every week, and I'm going to bring that up because I at least expect an answer.
Okay, then, if that is the case, Deborah, this question is for you. Steve and I worked the elections. If that is the case, that it's write-in, and they have to be spelled right, and there's only 2 people, can we have a poster?
No,
You can't.
you can't put the spellings out there, they have to know.
Really?
They come in, because I worked the last election in Horseshoe Bend, and that's what I found out, because there were people
But we won't have that.
with our names.
Pardon me?
Will we have that issue in third school?
You put it outside in front,
Yeah, no, write it.
130 people.
I would
The
think-
sample ballot
It
for our
should
county
show write-in.
showed write-in on it.
So
I'm
we are
hoping,
gonna vote for a write-in.
I'm hoping that was just a mistake on the sample ballot. And that's
Okay.
not, I don't know, if you know somebody that's already voted by absentee, you might ask them if the names are on there. I haven't found anybody that voted it by absentee, but that's something I'm trying to do.
I'd like to talk a little bit about poll watchers and poll challengers, because I volunteered for Priscilla Giddings' Lieutenant Governor campaign, and being as I did it in California, I thought I'll do it here. And we've gotten a lot of pushback by Boise County Clerk. In California, I'm just going to tell you, when we first introduced ourselves as Election Integrity California, and we're poll watchers, I just had a conversation with the Placer County ROV, Registrar of Voters, yesterday to say, hey Ryan, guess what? I'm running for county clerk, and wanted to ask him some questions about how he ran his elections and what he did. And he says, I remember when you came over to the county and you took our training. I took their poll workers training, and then I took their judges training, 2 separate classes. And he says, I remember you invited us to your training. And I did. I invited the county to come over, their trainers, their people, come on, and you can see what we're doing and what we're telling our people. And it was absolutely transparent. He says, we're still working with them this day, and I have you to thank for that, because they're constantly giving us some new ideas of what we can do. And he gave me an example. He said just last year, one of the poll watchers, they call them poll observers there, you can actually write reports, and it's not just to say, oh, I recognize that this person's name that came in to vote is either dead or moved from the address or a felon or whatever. How are we going to know all of that? But it's listed specifically in the code. We would say things like there was a procedural violation. They didn't follow what was in the code. I'll give you a quick example of that. The voter comes in, is supposed to announce his name, and then supposed to announce his address. If a voter comes in, you guys call them electors here, if an elector comes in and says, I'm John Smith, and then you go, oh, okay, look up John Smith, is your address, and then they read the address, that's a violation because the voter is supposed to read it. It's minor, and oftentimes it's not done for mischievous or evil intent. It's done because it is maybe it's a training issue. Maybe they didn't go over that enough in training. And so the following year, they're going to know when they do the training that they want to hit on that a little bit harder, that the voter's supposed to announce these two things. So anyway, the ROV said just this last year, one of the poll observers said, you know what, for those people that are surrendering their absentee ballots, we would just put them in a bag, and that's what we did with them. And one of the poll observers said, they should really be opened out of the envelope and marked spoiled. And we weren't doing that, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. So guess what? I ordered a bunch of spoiled stamps to give to all of the people, and I thought that's a good idea. So it's a very cooperative. We're looked at cooperatively with the registrar of voters, not with hostility. And I'm finding in Boise County, we're meeting with hostility, and it's not just in Boise County. Some of the leads are also finding hostility in Ada County and in Twin Falls.
Because that's the way they've done it for years, and we don't want to change.
Yeah, and actually, transparency and sunshine is the best way to run elections. Nothing done in secret. They will not let us view signature verification. And I think that's a huge part of absentee ballots. Wouldn't you want to know that somebody is providing oversight to the signature verification process? Wasn't that exactly the absentee ballot process, the segment in the elections in the 2020 that caused the most consternation? It should be completely transparent. That gives you, the voter, the confidence that your elections are being run fairly, and it's not going to disenfranchise you from knowing that, maybe my vote's not going to be counted. I'm going to give you one more example, and then I'm going to shut up. So when I had a stack, the stack was about this big, of cards of people registering to vote same day from all the towns in Boise County. And my job was to input them in the computer. This is same-day registration. They got to vote. Those ballots were blended with everybody else's. You couldn't separate them out. And I found one instance of the person not being a citizen and eligible to vote. So somebody was disenfranchised there. That person should not have been able to vote. That's a problem with same-day registration, the way Idaho conducts its registration and its voting. I don't know what they
Our Valley, they show ID.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
show ID, but there's no way of us verifying that they're actually a citizen.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Well,
Tell
it's
us.
just on their driver's license it'll tell.
Or
Or what state ID it'll tell.
I'll have to look more carefully.
Yeah,
One thing-
and what if they didn't have it, but they brought in a bill or something else?
They don't go by
Pick it,
this.
you gotta go pick your driver's license.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
you
good.
have to driver's license or state ID.
Good.
Well, one thing Dorothy Moon is planning on doing, if she gets elected, and I certainly hope she does, and what Deborah's talking about is provisional ballot. They come in, and you're not quite sure, they don't have what they need, so they can go ahead and vote, and then they put it in a separate little provision on it, and they've got how long to check it out?
I think it's 3
3 days,
days.
yeah.
So what a method that I have seen being used, and it's very effective, is the ballots are the same. Provisional ballots are exactly the same as regular ballots. They are put in an envelope, and on the outside of the envelope is a pocket where the voter registration goes. The envelope is sealed. So it comes to the county clerk, you get their registration, you look them up to find out if they're eligible to vote. If they're eligible to vote, the ballot comes out of the envelope and is blended with all the others. If they're not eligible to vote, the ballot never comes out of the envelope and it's not counted. That's a better way of handling it.
Right.
I want to say one thing on property taxes. I mentioned it just briefly. The tax assessments are coming out in the next few weeks. One thing to look at on that is they list all the taxing districts, and next to the taxing districts, they list a date. That's the date when they're going to have their budget hearing. You need to go, because not only is property tax, it's not just based on the value of your home. If the bubble burst and the property values of all our homes went down, our property tax wouldn't change, because it's budget driven. And so you need to be aware of that. And go to the county, go to the library, go to school meetings, and see what their budget is, and ask them, is it really all this necessary? Hold them accountable. Yes, sir.
In 08, when the bubble blew, I'll take my hat off to these commissioners who were in there. They actually held our taxes solid. You're right. Well, go down, but it did hold it solid.
That's good.
Which was a good deal. I mean,
A lot of people don't realize that the two go hand in hand.
They-
A lot of people yell at Chris Newjack, our assessor, he's just following the law, what the state of Idaho is doing. His elected official has to follow the state law. But if you are not pleased with your property assessment, you can challenge that and go talk to Chris, or you can go talk to the county commissioners. They have the right to overturn or change.
Yeah, that's
So-
what I think they came when they reevaluated everybody's homes too.
So one thing I wanted to suggest on that property tax or assessment paper, they will have the telephone numbers and the date of the meeting, but they don't list the time. So you have to call the number to find out what time they're going to meet. So let your neighbors know.
I think there's enough going on in Boise County right now. Three of us can stand up here. One thing I found out just the other day, get to Idaho World and you look up the minutes of the commissioners meeting, those aren't exact. That's a part of it. The editor gives verbatim copies of the minutes, but they don't have to put it in there. The only thing that's verbatim is the condenser, and then they don't put everything in the condenser. So you can go online. They now have a place listed on the commissioner's website for minutes. That's it. Just a change that's just gone through by someone was talking about. In the past, you had to go under the agenda, and the minutes for that meeting were under there. There's a lot that needs to be done, and Deborah, websites that can be used, Rick knows them. We just need him. I talk.
So please tell your neighbors and your friends, about what you heard and what you think, and spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And there's refreshments.